call tonight's meeting to order for September 6th, 2023. Mr. Metz, will you call the roll, please?
Gary Gross. Jim Hall.
Here.
Todd Moore.
Here.
Christopher Ambergy.
Present.
Trey Heidenreich.
Here.
David Cash.
Here.
Stephen Wanamaker.
Here.
You have quorum.
All right, thank you. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next, that moves us to our meeting minutes from August the 2nd and August 23rd. Any questions, any revisions? I do have a few revisions. I'll wait for other board members. Any other questions? Mr. Metz, in the under old or new business, I think this was on page 3 of our application or our minutes.
For which minutes?
Well, I wasn't able to print the entire packet, so this is basically my comment that I made at the end of the meeting from the last meeting.
Yeah, it's 23rd.
Yeah, the 23rd.
Yeah. I think it was just a bad translation from this. I'm not going to try to clean the entire paragraph up, but a couple things here. If nothing else, if you look into the middle of the paragraph, it actually says a pill instead of uphill. We're talking about the case of 2000
Yep.
those architectural plans. Just for clarification to make certain that what we were talking about there was that the case was appealed.
Right.
Just to clean that language up, if we could fix that instead of a pill. Otherwise, I'll just leave the rest alone. But just for the record, let's try to correct that. Any other comments?
We can vote on the meeting minutes for August 2nd, and then for August 23rd, I'll bring back a revised version.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
So Stefan Wanamaker,
Yes.
David Cash,
Yes.
Trey Heidenreich,
Yes.
Christopher Ambergy,
Abstain.
and Todd Moore.
Yes.
Jim Hall.
Abstain.
There we go. All right.
Okay, this brings us to our first case this evening. This is case number 1323. A request by applicant Tia Howe for approval of an area and dimensional variance for the property located at 2700 Grand Avenue. Before we get started, Mr. Cash will need to swear in Mr. Metz.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
So tonight before us, we have a request by applicant Tia Howe for an approval of an area and dimensional variance for the property located at 2700 Grand Avenue. The property is zoned R3 Medium Density Residential District. The variance request is allowed for the construction of a fence that exceeds the maximum height standards set forth in the Middletown Development Code. Below in the picture is the property from last year prior to the installation of the fence. It was a 4-foot tall black metal fence. As I mentioned previously, the property is zoned R3 Medium Density Residential District. The purpose of the R3 Medium Density Residential District is to provide for moderate density single-family residential uses in an urban setting which are served completely by public infrastructure adequate for the applicable density of development. Here's the property. The Middletown Development Code, Chapter 120806, Fences, Walls, and Hedges, E1, states, fences, walls, and hedges shall not exceed 48 inches in the front yard or along any lot line that is adjacent to a street, including corner lots in any residential district or in the O1 and O2 districts. Since this property is a corner lot, both front yards facing either street is considered a front yard. So here is a site plan that was submitted by the applicant. The property faces Grand, so anywhere from Grand up to the house would be considered the front yard. as well as anything from Highland up to the main structure of the house would be considered the front yard as well, up to at least 35 feet. I've indicated what would be allowed to have a 6-foot tall fence versus what would be allowed to have a 4-foot tall fence. The dark blue, you could go up to 6 feet tall, and in the red, you could go up to 4 feet tall. The applicant's fence currently sits on the outside of the blue, and it is 6 feet tall. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests, meeting notice letters for the proposed variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way, and all comments were forwarded to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I believe this kind of goes without saying, but we've received about 35 comments, public comments, in the last week and a half regarding all the different variance cases we had tonight. There were approximately 3 that we received for this particular project, and 1 was emailed to you early afternoon. I believe the citizen who submitted the comment is here and would like to speak. So, going over the review criteria, the following factors shall be considered and weighed by the BZA to determine practical difficulty. Whether special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land or structure involved and which are not applicable generally to other lands or structures in the same zoning district. Examples of such special conditions or circumstances are exceptional irregularity, narrowness, shallowness, or steepness of the lot, or adjacency to nonconforming or inharmonious uses, structures, or conditions. Whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Whether the special conditions and circumstances are a direct result from the actions of the applicant, his or her agents, or prior property owners. Whether the variance is substantial and is the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land or structures. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water, sewer, electric, roof use pickup, or other vital services. Whether special conditions or circumstances exist as a result of actions of the owner. Whether the property owner's predicament can feasibly be obviated through some other method than a variance. Whether the spirit and intent behind the code requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting a variance. Whether the granting of the variance requested will confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this regulation to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. No single factor listed above may control, and not all factors may be applicable in each case. Each case shall be determined on its own facts. Any person or entity claiming to be injured or aggrieved by any final action of the Board of Zoning Appeals has the right to appeal the decision to the Court of Common Pleas as provided in Ohio Revised Code Chapters 2505 and 2506. So I wanted to provide a little bit of background history on this property. Approximately last year, the property was sold from the previous owner to the current owner, and at that point in time, the current owner removed the fence and installed a new one without a permit. Code enforcement contacted me. We went through the zoning violation process in order to get the applicant in. Took roughly 7 months to get them in and to apply and get them seen before you. Now currently, as you can see, property sits upon a little bit of a hill, but still grade would be considered 3 feet on either side. So the 4-foot tall existing fence would have been permitted. If you go from where the building is here and go straight back to the garage, a 6-foot tall fence could be built, but instead they went closer to the sidewalk and then went out. Previously mentioned, fences, walls, and hedges shall not exceed 48 inches in the front yard or along any lot line that is adjacent to a street, including corner lots, as this is a corner lot in a residential district. And you can see the fence goes outwards, not straight back, in line with the house. That ends my staff report. I'm not sure if the applicant is here. Do you have any questions for me?
Could you go back to the one with the blue and red on it, where they could put a fence?
Yep.
Okay.
So the fence approximately comes out closer to the edge of the sidewalk and then goes along about this red line. So it goes right where the 4-foot fence should be, not the 6-foot fence. The fence, they never applied for a fence permit, and I don't believe the fence is completed at this point in time either, so.
Mr. Mitz, you said there's no one here for,
I'm not sure if the applicant is present.
Okay,
okay, yeah.
perfect,
Any other
perfect.
questions for Mr. Metz before we open the public hearing?
Nope.
Okay. I'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Mr. Cash will swear you in. Please come forward.
Oh, she must be
Oh, she's not.
adverse.
Are you Tia? Yeah, if you'd like to speak.
Yeah, if you're in favor, ma'am. Come right here and stand there and raise your right hand, and I will swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Help me God, yes. Yes.
If you'll identify yourself, please.
My name is Tia Howell, and I'm the owner of 2700 Grand Avenue. And then I just say my piece. Sorry, this is my first time doing this. I didn't apply for a permit. I will say that I did not know. I'm a first-time homeowner in my immediate family. Did not know the process. I barely even knew how to buy a house myself, to be quite honest. I bought the house with the help of my realtor who was in the Army. I used my VA loan to buy it. If I had known I needed a permit and there were due processes for that, I definitely would have applied for it. I'm not trying to break any rules or make anyone's life harder. The fence is in, all the posts are in, all the planks are up. The gates are still in process. They kind of sag a little. Overall, the fence is complete. We haven't screwed in the planks because of this process, so we didn't want to have to go out and screw all of them off just in case it didn't get approved. We put in 3 gates. We put a gate where there already was a gate with the prior fence, which is right beside the front door. We put a gate beside the garage, and then we put a double gate on the other side of the house where there's no issue with the fence. We put the gates there so the mower could get in and out right there by the front door. Otherwise, there's bushes and hedges that our zero turn will not reach, and it will not make it up that steep little hill. I had 2 dogs. I just put one down recently, but I also have another dog that can easily scale a 4-foot fence. We just had put the posts around the same areas that the last posts were. If we bring the fence in to be flat with the house like the city wants, I don't have a problem with that. However, it will impede my deck that was already there prior to me purchasing the house, so I would have to probably saw off or cut or redo a portion of that deck, because if I just put a 6-foot fence right beside that deck, my dog will easily go up on the elevated deck and scale that fence because he is a Belgian Malinois and he is not no house pet, unfortunately. Or I could do even taller, I guess you would say plank on that deck, like on that portion of it, but then I don't think the city would like that either. It would probably be uglier in my opinion. Yeah, before I don't have my papers with me, sorry. I thought it would show everything that I sent in. What's up?
Where this picture here, where the blue line, what we're talking about here, from your home, the backyard, how far does that project out? I know
From the house? Roughly 4 feet. If you go to the,
it's 6 feet.
it's 4 feet. It's not 6 feet. I measured it. It's roughly 4 feet, maybe 4 feet and 2 inches, maybe. So it comes out 4 feet. We did that because the fence there before did that. Like I said, I didn't know about the height requirement. That's the only reason why we brought it back out, and for the mower to reach right there with the gate. I had something else, but I can't remember. Do you have any other questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
The realtor you used, were there discussions between you and him?
About the fence?
Was it him?
About the fence?
Yeah, you moved in. Was there any discussion regarding the fence and your intention of removing the wrought iron and putting
There
in this
wasn't-
privacy
He
fence?
did know we needed a 6-foot fence. He did know that.
Did that?
He did know that.
Is he, and I don't want to know his name, but was there any discussion regarding permits?
No, he didn't mention that I might need permits or anything.
Did you have a fence company put this fence in, or did you
No,
install
my
it?
boyfriend's actually a contractor. His last house, he did his own fence, so he did his fence on this property as well. So,
He's a contractor?
yes.
So there was no discussion with him about maybe seeking information from the city regarding a permit?
He didn't think about it, and he didn't know. His family has lived in
I mean,
Middletown.
obviously, that's the case, otherwise
Yeah,
we wouldn't
his-
be here.
When I say he's a contractor, he doesn't do fences for a living. He does usually drywall and drive it, so he's usually not doing fences. He's actually just now starting to technically work with a company for decks and fences. After the fact this all happened and after I got the notifications from the city, his brother, who is a contractor who does a lot more work than my boyfriend, he told me that we should, what the due process should have been for us, and I was like, wow, that makes sense. He said, next time, if you want to do anything with the house, just talk to the city first, which I completely understand. The reason he went ahead and did it is because of his last property, he went ahead and did it, and there were no issues, no quorums or anything. I did not know that's considered my side yard to me right there. I didn't know that would be considered a front yard at all, because to me, with my limited knowledge, 2,700 Grand is my address. That is the front of my home. That is the front yard. But obviously, with that explanation, I understand now.
Are the uprights, are they sunk in concrete, or are they
They're
just
in
in the
concrete.
ground?
They are in concrete. Yes.
pylons, okay. That's all I have.
Any other questions?
Yeah. I've got the email that you sent to Mr. Metz with
Okay.
the pool construction
Yeah.
stuff. Is that what's
Yeah.
going on now?
I'm sorry?
Is that, you're building that pool now?
No, different people.
Oh, no, that's not me.
That's for 4500 Central Avenue.
Yeah, no, she's not putting a pool in, this is just a fence.
What's your name?
Tia.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's from Tara.
It's
Sorry.
okay. There's a resemblance there. Anything else? You're welcome.
I'm not sure if the microphone's on. Hopefully you can hear me out there. No? Can't hear me?
Yeah. 1, 2. There we go. Okay. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the variance, please come forward. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to the variance? Please come forward. Please come forward. Mr. Cash will swear you in.
Ma'am, raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Identify yourself, please, for us.
My name is Diana Stahl. I live at 800 Highland Street, Middletown, Ohio.
Ma'am, if you would, just maybe move the microphone a little closer. Yeah, pull it down. Yes, there you go.
My name is Diana Stahl. I live at 800 Highland Street in Middletown. And my husband and I are here because of that fence. It is a mess. There's boards out. There is, the fencing is not at the correct height. We have lived there 51 years, and it's an old neighborhood, but we have tried to keep it good. We've tried to keep it up. And since this mess has come to town, it's terrible. It's just terrible. It's a blight on the neighborhood. And according to the City of Middletown's regulations, a permit should have been issued, okay, before constructing this fence. Due to the neglection of the responsibility, the property owner has constructed a 6-foot-plus fence. And from what we understand, there is regulations, the regulations in Middletown, in the ordinance, it's a 4-foot fence. And what I'm asking is that we ask that the city of Middletown simply enforce the ordinance the way they are. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Again, anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, I'll now close the public hearing, and we can move to deliberations.
I got a question from Mr. Metz. Back to your blue and red line there. In some of the correspondence that you sent out, on, which would be the east side of the house, that's an existing 6-foot fence that the neighbors put in?
Well, I did rotate the photo, so north would be to your left.
Still would be the east.
Sorry. So the top would be east, yep.
The top was the white, or fence that was installed by the neighbor?
I'm not sure what's on the back side of the property, if there's a fence there or not. I'm sure there is, but where the,
There is a 6-foot fence on that side, sorry. It was there when we moved in.
so anywhere where you would see blue is just those are just theoretical lines, imaginary lines of what would or would not be permitted.
Mr. Metz, in this case, are we saying that the fence is is it a front yard setback? Is that the problem?
Yep, so right now you're just reviewing the fence height. So currently, as she's a corner lot, she has 2 front yards, front yard on Grand and front yard on Highland, and there's not 35 feet, which would be the front yard setback. So since the fence does stick out approximately somewhere between 4 to 6 feet from the house outwards into what's considered the front yard, you're just approving the 2-foot variance going from the 4-foot to the 6-foot.
Because it's difficult to think about that as the front of the home when we're thinking Grand Avenue, if that's the address at 2700. Because just as a practical matter, when you look at the property, you would think of the frontage being Grand Avenue, not Highland. That's where I kind of struggle with this particular case.
Well, the address is always the mailing address. So we have a lot of properties within the city of Middletown that are Franklin or, different township, but I understand your point.
Does the development code define a front yard where it sits on a corner like this?
It does.
Both frontages on the intersecting streets are front yards?
Yes. So last time we had a project like this that I presented before you, you asked if I could next time draw it. So this time we have 2 cases, and both times I kind of drew it just to help make it a little bit easier.
I just want one clarification. Any area inside the blue rectangle you have there is allowed to have a 6-foot fence, is that true?
Correct.
Any area in there? Okay, thank you.
And then anywhere between the red and the blue could be a 4-foot. So if they wanted to build a 4-foot, if you look at the cursor, anywhere in here, all the way through, even in here, could be a 4-foot tall fence. But 6-foot maxes out where the blue line is.
But again, what we're talking about is her building this out maybe 6 foot on that side, what I consider to be the side yard. Otherwise, she would be able to take it from the back of her home and just straight down the line. Is that correct? And she could build that. The variance would be for the 6-foot fence, still be 2 feet above the code. Is that making sense?
Could you say that
Yeah,
again?
the issue that I see here, for me, where I'm struggling with this, is that if we took this fence where it's currently at and just simply moved it 6 foot towards the home, straight down, then it kind of simplifies this case at that point, right?
Correct. Except for the issue that she mentioned with her deck.
So that's where I'm struggling, whether or not this becomes a practical difficulty challenge at this point, where we're looking at this 6 foot. I'm looking for some feedback from my colleagues as well.
I personally don't think it's unreasonable to stay in the blue lines.
Are you saying move it back?
No,
Leave it where it stands now?
leave it where it stands. I mean, she still gets a 6-foot fence.
Right.
It's just got to be moved back. And,
You mean move it from the red line to
Yeah.
the blue line?
yes,
Yes. Yeah. I thought that's what you were saying.
and I'm assuming that she's got the privacy fence in the backyard and the side yard and a little part going in the front. The only cost would be to move the part back between the house and the garage.
Mr. Metz, would there be any issue with granting, I could say a variance to the variance as far as, if we hypothetically move the fence back to the 6-foot setting where it would be allowed, would there be anything that could be allowed to allow the portion by the deck to be taller
Increased?
than, yes, increased?
Absolutely. So that would be just an approval with a modification. So if you wanted to move the fence back from where it is to where the blue line is in the section, that would be in or near the deck. If you wanted to move that to a height that you would prefer, that, you know, you could speak to the applicant about, if you guys came to say maybe 7 feet or 8 feet, just near the deck, that's something absolutely within your ability.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, it could be an extension of the railing on the deck itself. It doesn't have to be an independent standing fence from the ground. Is that true?
Are you saying, could she build from,
You know, you got a deck there, and there's probably a railing around the deck, if they didn't have any railing at all around the yard. And just raise, yeah, and see where the black fence is there on that picture?
Yep.
Could they raise that up to a height that the dog isn't gonna be able to jump over, or is that a problem? Do you have to have the fence all the way to the ground? Can it be like a tall railing?
as long as it effectively serves the purpose as a fence, wall, or hedge, it would have to abide by chapter 120806E1. So she could still have an 8-foot tall fence if that's what you guys chose, just by her deck. And that's something you wanted to work out with the applicant.
Is there a departmental waiver that can be applied in that case? What, 10%? Is there a 10?
It's only 10%, which would have only been
Yeah, okay.
minimal inches.
What is the height of this, in this picture we're looking at here? It looks to me like there's multiple heights.
Yeah, so I'm not allowed to go on to private citizens' properties. Anything has to be viewed from the public right-of-way, which is the sidewalk for me. Just being able to use my eyes, I was able to see that's taller than 4 feet, but I wasn't able to actually measure the fence. As you can see, the board's kind of range, but I don't know if that's based off of just the ground terrain and them just putting a 6-foot board there.
But do we require that it be even at the top?
Well, we don't have something, or a particular section of the development code that would state that.
May I suggest that for the future? I mean, I do think that the lady made a point, and I see why she's making the point. That's a little unsightly that.
I don't see a justification. Any other comments? Any other suggestions?
In my opinion, I believe a reasonable action would be, unfortunately, a permit should have been filled out and the code should have been followed as far as, unfortunately, I know from experience in my line of work that it's side yards are unfortunately considered front yards in a lot of municipalities. And there's plenty of reasonings why, views and all that kind of stuff. But if we could at least agree to move the fence back to where it is properly allowed, along with a variance to give her an ability to at least on or around her deck have a taller section, then I think that might be the best route, but that's my opinion.
I think what you're saying is, and I'm in agreement, that above that top surface of the deck there, that the fence be, if it's moved back there, be a little larger so dogs can't be jumping over it, a little taller so dogs can't be jumping over that. But it looks like even with 6 feet, it is going to extend. If I'm looking at that back fence there, it does look like it still would be approximately a foot above that wrought iron fence that's there. Yeah.
I guess, and I appreciate the comments, I guess where I'm struggling with this is that we're gonna have this multi-tiered fence that goes down, when right now, what we're looking at is the fact that she's built out a little further onto a side yard, while we're calling it the front yard. It goes, I'm not saying that I think that it's a beautiful fence. Certainly you can see by the pictures, but I just wonder how, if we're not having two different sections of a fence, how that's actually going to look in the neighborhood itself. That becomes quite a challenge.
I'm not offering that as a,
Yeah.
I wasn't suggesting that as a compromise. I'm just, if the dog issue becomes the issue, one of the issues here, that might be a resolution to that unless the fence as it sits there against the flush against the house would then suffice to keep the dogs from jumping over, right? So that's a pretty good leap.
I think there could be creative ways to build a nice looking fence on the porch.
Can I suggest something?
Absolutely.
Asking the applicant if they would be interested in having a section of their fence be 7 or 8 feet tall and then have it scaled down, because if you're having this conversation and she's not interested, then it might be pointless. And then additionally, when it comes to vote, you can always vote to only approve a section of the fence to be above 4 feet tall at the designated height, but not extend past the front of the house. That could be a way you could format it. Are you interested in? Would you be interested in speaking to her about this?
I think so. Well, ma'am, we'll give you, as soon as she's done, we're going to give you a rebuttal.
What was the question? I'm sorry. Can you repeat it?
Mr. Matt, do you want?
Would you? So what they were stating about not having the fence move past the house, have it be 6 foot tall there, but to work with you to allow you to have a fence that would exceed 6 feet tall around your deck, so you'd be able to mitigate the issue with your dog jumping, et cetera.
You know, I would be interested in it. However, there's 2 other houses on Highland that are corner lots that have a 6-foot fence. So I don't see why me having a 6-foot fence is a huge issue. Regardless, it's a 6-foot fence. Even if I move it back, and moving it back is just gonna cause even more like destruction of the property. I'm gonna have to dig everything out, bring it back, build it up higher. It's gonna look wonky with an 8-foot part going right down to a 6-foot part. It just looks goofy to me. It looks worse. And yes, I just want to answer your question from earlier. It's all 6 foot. It follows the ground. It's very normal to follow the ground. We haven't cut the top to make it even yet because of this whole ordeal. So, thank you.
Ma'am, did you have another comment?
I would like to ask all of you, how would you like to look out your window and see this every day? With the rotten fence falling down, so, I mean, it's just a mess. And I'm trying to be respectful. I'd like to know how you guys would like that. When you have lived in a neighborhood 51 years and never had, there are fences, other fences, but they're on side. They're not in the front of a property. We have a neighbor that has a pool. It has a fence, but it's in a side yard. So, I mean, I can't imagine having to look at this forever and a day. I just can't. It's awful. I just wish you guys would come, make a trip, and look at it from my window.
Well, I think the fence has to move back. I would say that we've got to, I don't see the hardship here to accommodate a dog. And we got rules, and the zoning code has rules, and it's not ever mentioned an animal as far as I'm concerned. So I don't have a problem moving the fence back from the red line to the blue line like it's supposed to be. And that's the hardship that she has to endure for not getting a permit. And I hear what the lady's saying, and I don't know if the appearance would improve moving it back to the proper position, but that's about as far as I think we can go.
I just want to make sure that she understands that she can have a 6-foot fence, except it has to be moved back.
Well, I think she does.
It hurt.
I do understand that. I don't understand her rebuttal because either way, she's going to be looking
True.
Well, can I say something, man? I'm 72 years old, and I don't understand why people grow up in the city or move to a city and they never come across a thought that, you know what, they might have some rules. We might have to apply for a permit to do this or that. And I've been involved in city committees now for a number of years, and it blows my mind to think that I would buy a property and come in and just think I can do whatever I please.
Not that I thought I could do whatever I want to do. As I stated earlier, I didn't know there was a due process. That is totally my bad. But in my defense, and in anyone's defense when it comes to ignorance, you do not know what to ask. You do not know, in my experience.
And sadly, ignorance of the law is no excuse. That is the law.
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, we're still deliberating. I think Mr. Heidenreich has put forward a very reasonable proposal. Is there any other, what he is saying is that fence would have to come back to the blue line.
No, I can support Jerry's.
Well, I think it would be a motion to deny the variance.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yes.
It would have to be a motion to deny the variance and allow Ms., I'm sorry, a last name, I'm sorry.
So we'd have to go through the process of
Proper
obtaining.
process of obtaining a permit to reinstall this fence. It's difficult to tell somebody that, but ignorance of the rules is really no defense. I mean,
You make a motion?
I'll move that the variance be denied.
I second it.
When you're ready, Mr.
Could
Metz.
you please just cite the review criteria?
Yeah,
Sorry.
5 and 9.
Well, that the special conditions are a direct result of the actions of the applicants, his agent, her agent, or prior property owners.
Okay.
All right.
Which would be a 3.
A3. I'll read roll. Jim Hall,
Yes to deny.
Todd Moore,
Yes.
Christopher Ambergy,
Yes.
Jerry Heidenreich,
Yes.
David Cash,
Yes.
Stefan Wanamaker.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. That moves us now to case number 1423. A request by applicant John Sapanish for approval of an area and dimensional variance for the property located at 1100 Lafayette Avenue. Mr. Metz, when you're ready.
So tonight before us, we have variance case 14-23. This is a request by applicant John Sapanish for an area and dimensional variance at 1110 Lafayette Avenue. The property is zoned R4 attached residential district. The variance requested is to allow for the construction of a second accessory structure, whereas the Middletown Development Code limits one accessory structure on any single lot with a single-family dwelling. As you can see here, in the picture to the bottom, that is a single-family home with a garage to the rear. Mr. Sapanish would like to build a second garage behind the first one, all metal. The property is zoned R4 attached residential district. The purpose of the R4 attached residential district is to provide for moderate to high density residential development, generally located in the core area of the city that reflects the historic urban development pattern in and around downtown Middletown. As you can see here, here's the property. Garage is slightly behind it where the lettering is, and then the next garage would be back here. Middletown Development Code, Chapter 120601, Accessory Uses and Structures. 6, detached garages and carports. Subsection A, only one detached garage or carport may be permitted on any single lot with a single-family dwelling. We do not have a site plan. We do not have elevations of the buildings. We do not have any additional information. After Mr. Spanish submitted his application, I reached out to him, left a voicemail, stated that we're going to need elevations of the building, at which point in time he told me the building was metal, came to the city building, we spoke about it, told him he'd have to go through the architectural review board, kind of discuss the process with him a little bit. I believe this was about 2 or 3 weeks ago after the legal ad was sent out. he stormed off, and I haven't heard from him since. So was not able to follow up with any of my additional information, which is why I just supplied the application that I initially received. So it's for a second outbuilding with no other further information.
I do have a question. The garage, the picture you showed of the garage, if he wanted to expand the garage in some capacity, what would be allowable on that property? Let's suppose that he wasn't able to build a completely separate structure. They wanted to do an addition to the building. How far could he go?
Well, the garage could be expanded, and there's only 2 sections of the code that would stop it. The garage cannot exceed 25% of the backyard. And the second one is the new garage would not be able to exceed the footprint of the home. So let's say the home is 800 or 1,000 square feet, couldn't have a 2,000 square foot garage. You could have up to 999 square feet.
Okay.
Could you put the other picture up there, the top view?
Yeah.
Now, the one with the yellow arrow is the property? And
Yes.
and the 2 to the left, is that 2 structures out there?
It is.
Okay. He may have gotten the idea from looking over there, huh?
Possibly. There's been quite a bit of variances passed previously.
Okay.
Do you know what the square footage of the respective buildings is? The house and the garage?
The current house and the current garage,
Yes.
no.
Okay.
But in theory, the one that he has, he could build behind that. In other words, he could remove the rear wall if he wanted it to be one unit
Mm-hmm.
Extended.
and build on back.
Correct.
That's what Todd was thinking.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the variance, please come forward. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of Mr. Sapanch's request?
I would like to read the review criteria, not the review criteria, but the appeals, just for the record. Any person or entity claiming to be injured or aggrieved by any final action of the Board of Zoning Appeals has the right to appeal the decision to the Court of Common Pleas as provided in Ohio Revised Code Chapters 2505 and 2506. That ends my staff report. I do not believe the applicant is present.
Okay. Well, once again, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Okay, I'll now close the public hearing, and we will try to decide which way to go with this particular case, so.
Well, obviously, he has an option to expand his garage backwards to a limit. Because of the place, two doors, whatever it is, east, west, or wherever it is, I'm assuming, and that may not be a good statement, but if it's probably grandfathered in there, or at least it's there and nobody knows why. So that would have not been acceptable to this board, at least as far as I'm concerned originally. So I would think if he has to come back or he wants to come back, he should do what the gentlemen here are suggesting, and that is potentially expand the garage itself to the limits that he needs. He can have a side door on it, I assume, at that back point to allow access to the deepest part of the new garage extension.
I'm always reluctant to decide cases without an applicant or without plans. I think that in a similar case, we granted a continuance. I know that Mr. Sapanish has asked that maybe he develop some plans or at least provide you, Mr. Metch, with some additional plans, but without an applicant in front of us, without plans in front of us, I wouldn't be in favor of voting either way on this particular case.
No plans or elevations were submitted.
Can I ask Mr. Metz, did Mr. Sapanish seem to be receptive to explaining his position, or?
His position for
Well,
leaving the meeting, or?
Well, when he left your office, I mean, you've been doing this for a while, was there any inclination on your part that he was going to comply with your request and provide these plans and site elevations?
No, sir.
Okay, I got one other question. If he wants to build a metal building, as you said he mentioned, that could still be attached to the back of the garage? Or does it have to be same materials or something?
No, it doesn't have to be the same materials. So for an accessory structure, any size larger than 200 square feet that would be able to be seen from the public right away has to match the front facade of the home. If he wanted to build on the rear of his garage, I don't think I'd be able to see the back of his home anyways, which wouldn't require him to go to the architectural review board. However, if he built it where he possibly indicated that he could be seen from the public right away, in which case we'd have to go through the architectural review board.
Okay, well, it sounds to me he has options, so I move that we turn this variance down.
Well, we have a motion. Any other comments?
I'll second that.
Okay.
What is it?
We reject the motion, or we reject the variance.
We have a review criteria that we'd like to cite for either page. I can go back and forth if you need.
I think he has alternatives, so where the heck can you put?
Well, I question the validity of it,
Yeah, I mean,
to be very honest.
it's these conditions and circumstances are a result of his actions. He wants to, so I would think it'd be A3 again.
I would also probably cite item 10, that it's conferring a special privilege. And may I also just add that without plans and dimensions and
Yeah.
any idea, it's kind of almost an incomplete application. So,
Yeah, I think that's,
And if he can add on to the back, that's not the minimum necessary to make the possible reasonable use of the land and structures.
Well, we have a motion and a second. We've cited the review criteria. Mr. Metz, when you're ready.
Jim Hall,
Yes.
to deny. Todd Moore,
Yes.
Christopher Ambergy,
Yes to deny.
Jerry Heidenreich,
Yes.
David Cash,
yes.
and Stefan Wanamaker.
yes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, moving forward, this now moves us to case number 1523, a request by applicant Tara Howard for approval of an area dimensional variance for the property located at 4500 Central Avenue.
So tonight before us, we have a request by applicant Tara Howard for approval of an area and dimensional variance for the property located at 4500 Central Avenue. The property is zoned R3 Medium Density Residential District. The variance request allows for the construction of a fence that exceeds the maximum height standards set forth in the Middletown Development Code. This is very similar to our previous application at 2700, except she hasn't built the fence yet. So the property is zoned R3. The purpose of the R3 Medium Density Residential District is to provide for moderate density, single-family residential uses in an urban setting which are served completely by public infrastructure adequate for the applicable density of development. As you can see here, the applicant is on a corner lot on Central and Elmer, close to where Central turns into Coles. Middletown Development Code, Chapter 120806, Fences, Walls, and Hedges, E1 states, fences, walls, and hedges shall not exceed 48 inches in the front yard or along any lot line that is adjacent to a street, including corner lots in any residential district or in the O1 and O2 districts. As you can see, this property is in a residential district, and the property owner would like to extend the fence past the house into what's considered the front yard along and connects to the neighbor's property privacy fence. So the fence to the left is the proposed fence. This is the fence that Ms. Howard would like to build. And then the fence to the right is a 6-foot tall privacy fence. It is, however, in the front yard, but it is, it's been up there since before 2017 which would mean that it's grandfathered in. The new code requiring fences in the front yard to be less than 6 feet tall or 48 inches didn't come in until effect until 2018. So just to recap, the applicant is not going to be present. She is a traveling nurse. I did forward that email chain to you. She was not going to be able to make it. She has built a pool, can't access or utilize the pool until the pool permit's finished, in which case she requires a fence to be able to have the pool. It's been stated that she's well aware that of the boundaries, what would be allowed and what would not be allowed for a 4-foot tall fence in the location and a 6-foot tall fence. Her reasoning for wanting the 6-foot tall fence is so that neighbors or anybody driving by down Elmer Drive wouldn't be able to see into her yard while she's at her pool. Previously mentioned, all meeting notice letters for the proposed variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way, and all comments were forwarded to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I do not believe we received any letters for this property. Any person or entity claiming to be injured or aggrieved by any final action of the Board of Zoning Appeals has the right to appeal the decision to the Court of Common Pleas as provided in the Ohio Revised Code Chapters 2505 and 2506. The applicant is not present. Do you have any questions for me?
I do. Could you go back to the that one right there?
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to what we just dealt with the Grand Avenue property. Apparently, this is not to scale, and I don't know how big that pool is going to be. Did you say the pool has been dug?
The pool has been built, but
It's
she
already-
can't fill it and she
Right.
can't utilize it until the fence is built.
So the 6-foot fence, which of course would be allowable along the setback line of the house there, correct?
Correct, right through here.
How, do we know approximately how far that would be from the pool?
Approximately 10 feet
And
from
how-
conversations.
And how far does she want to extend to the opposite? I think it's to the east. How far, can you put your cursor up there?
Yep.
To show, what's the distance between the Elmer side of the house to the proposed fence line? Did that
Well,
make sense?
Yeah, from the, she did not provide that information, but she did provide the information from the house outwards would be approximately 10 feet.
Oh, for the fence?
For the
Be
fence.
Extended beyond the flush line of the house?
Yep, approximately
Okay.
10 feet.
That's what I was asking.
Yep, and from the house to the public right-of-way is less than 35 feet, which would be the setback line.
I got a question. What's the little bubble there? Is that a deck or something? If she was here, I'd like to find out, why did she kind of include the fence line around it? Instead of just, if we end up saying she's got to extend it on the line of the house all the way to wherever the back property line is, or wherever she wants to go. I don't understand that little,
This little portion,
yeah. What
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, okay, that's strange, that's all to me.
In the picture, it has 2 references to existing fences. Are both of those fences 6 feet?
Correct.
Yeah.
So there is one that is 6-foot tall fence along the backside of the property here, and then there's the one that was shown in the other slide that actually comes all the way down, and I think it's only a few feet from the sidewalk. This one right here. So that's only approximately 6 to 7 feet from the sidewalk.
So she would have to, if she came straight down the side of her house, it would hit somewhere, not on the end of that fence, somewhere 2 or 3 feet to the left of where the fence stops.
Probably closer to 10 feet.
10 feet, okay.
Yeah.
But is it acceptable the way that fence exists, or is that just grandfathered in?
It's just grandfathered in. This fence was built before the development code was updated in 2018.
I wish she would have came because she sent pictures of the pool with water in it.
Yep.
And you were saying it's 10 foot from the pool?
No, she wants to extend from the house approximately 10 feet
Toward Elmer.
toward Elmer.
Okay.
I was able to drive by the home, and it looks like the pool is pretty centrally located in the backyard, from what I can tell.
And the reason she's not here, she's a traveling nurse. I'm not sure if that was stated before or not, so she's out of state.
So have you discussed with her the option of, well, let me back up. Is there an option for her to meet with the required height of a fence surrounding a swimming pool if she had two fences? If she complied with the city's outer fence, and then she had another, I mean, that could be, well, I can't say what it could be. You would have to say what it could be. The requirement around the pool, but I mean, it could be decorative, it could be something that she might actually enjoy.
Yep. So chief building official would be the one to go out and inspect the pool and inspect the fence. That is a requirement that the chief building official, or I guess the state has, the state building code has for pools, not necessarily the zoning department. Zoning department just limits the height once it enters the front yard. She's, when she came in, she sat down with me. We had probably a 25-minute meeting on this, and I talked about all the different possibilities, whether it be a 4-foot tall fence in the front yard or a 6-foot tall fence running along the side of the house here, interconnecting with the 6-foot tall fence there. But she landed upon the idea of going for a variance and asking for a 6-foot tall fence moving closer.
Okay. I think I know where I am.
Well, this is, any other questions from Mr. Matz before we get started? Okay. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the variance, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the variance, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the variance, please come forward. Okay. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing, and we can move to deliberation.
I'm actually for extending this, giving her some more time, and bringing it back. That's my offering.
Well,
Or for what further information do you
detail.
need?
More detail, more conversation with him.
yeah, well, if she wants to bring the 6-foot fence and go the length of, or parallel to the house there, right at the house, whatever it is, the side of the house, to the back fence, that's the option they got. If we're gonna, and I don't see what we're gonna gain by giving her, this variance won't be acceptable when she comes back next time either, to my thoughts.
Very possibly. She could possibly come back and say, okay, I'll do it your way, and.
Well, if she wants to do it on a 6-foot fence and go there, there's no reason for a
Well,
variance.
my only problem, Jerry, is she's not here.
Well, that's,
We don't know what she'll do.
But
We don't
she's-
know what she'll say.
But she doesn't have the hardship that the other lady had because she doesn't have a fence there. If it's denied, the variance is denied, she simply complies with the zoning, the development code, and puts a 6-footer in there next, flush with the Elmer side of her home.
there you
I
go.
don't know, I guess I don't know, I mean, I understand giving her an option. I just don't know what she can provide us that's gonna convince us that a variance is warranted in this case, considering we just denied a variance to a woman who now has incurred a significant.
We are to consider each and every one separate.
Well, I understand that. I'm not saying that
Well, you just
that's
raised
precedent. I'm just saying that it's,
I'm saying I'm considering a person who is traveling on the job, who would have been here.
if you want to make a
could have spoken
motion,
for
make a
themselves.
motion to continue it then.
That's what I, well,
Just real quick,
guys so far, I don't think are liking it.
I would just like to add that when I did speak to the applicant, I did propose all the different options that she has for fence heights, locations, et cetera. She understood that this was a gamble. Nothing is ever certain with going through the process. And although that it wasn't certain, she would still like to try.
Was
And
she
if,
an Army nurse?
no, that was the previous lady.
No, that was a little joke.
Oh,
If she's an Army nurse, I'd just say, okay, let's deny it. Because when you say she knew all the risks, I would believe
yep,
it.
yep. So this applicant, Tara Howard, knew that this was a possibility to get denied. She knew that she was asking for more than what the development code would permit, and she still wanted to at least shoot for that.
I made my suggestion. Gentlemen, you have the floor.
You can make a motion, you can make your motion to continue it.
Before we move to motions, I just want to clarify, I mean, there's two fences here. I'm just looking at trying to solve this in a practical way, thinking about practical difficulty for a moment. I mean, the fences that are there are 6 feet. I think she's making a reasonable approach to trying. She's made the investment in a pool. She's taken a reasonable approach to try to improve this property. I just want to make certain I'm clear on where, can you bring the picture back up for a moment?
This one?
Yes. I mean, so, well, there was another picture where
The overhead, the overhead.
yeah, we're talking about this proposed fence. I mean, from what I'm hearing is that, at least from my colleagues, we're saying if, in a similar way to the last case, if this could be brought down from the home to connect to this prior fence, is that what I'm hearing that would be acceptable? It's the extension that she's asked for into the frontage that's the difficulty.
Right.
For
Well,
everyone.
that meets the code.
Yeah.
So that's, if she wants to meet the code, can meet the code.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to aim at is, before we move to motions, do we want to grant her, do we grant her a motion or do we continue? You know, do we want to attach some conditions to say that if this fence is brought to that line, that we would make a motion to approve? Otherwise, do we,
If they bring it to the line. I move that we turn this variance down.
Second.
so we want to, I'm not,
Moved and seconded.
so the motion is to deny then? Is that what we're hearing? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Okay. Okay.
Mr. Cash, would you want to provide the review criteria? I'm sure it's probably similar.
Yes, I think it would be the 3 and 10 that Mr. Wanamaker pointed out, that it would grant her a special privilege. So I think the A3 and A10 would be applicable.
Thank you. Now, okay. Stephen Wanamaker, this is to deny.
Yes to deny.
David Cash,
Yes to deny.
Jerry Heidenreich,
Yes?
Christopher Ambergy,
Yes.
Todd Moore,
Yes.
and Jim Hall.
Yes.
Tough night tonight. Okay, case number 1623, a request by applicant Ryan Colwell for approval of an area and dimensional variance for the property located at 2530 El Camino Drive.
So tonight before us, we have an area and dimensional variance request by applicant Ryan Colwell for approval. The property is zoned R4 attached residential district. The variance requested is to allow for a trailer to be parked in the front yard. It does not meet the minimum front yard setback set forth in the Middletown Development Code. Below is the picture of the property, and I believe this might be the trailer in question. I would not like to assume. The property is zoned R4. The purpose of the R4 attached residential district is to provide for moderate to high-density residential development, generally located in the core area of the city, that reflects the historic urban development pattern in and around downtown Middletown. Here's the property. Now, as previously stated, trailers and other recreational equipment or vehicles cannot be parked within the front yard unless it meets a 35-foot setback. So this property, the front of the house to where the property lines, well, the public right-of-way starts, is 37 feet. On the left-hand side from the applicant's home to the property line is 7 feet, and then on the other side to the north is only 11 feet. So when previously speaking to the applicant, they're in a situation where, although trailers can be parked in the side or rear yard, it's not feasible to be able to get the trailer to the rear of the yard, nor the side of the yard to be parked, because it wouldn't meet the setbacks there. So they are asking to be able to park the trailer, to continue to park the trailer in the front yard, although it would encroach within the 35-foot setback from the public right-of-way. The requirement for legal notice for variance requests, meeting notice letters for the proposed variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way. All comments were forwarded to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Once again, this is an area and dimensional variance review criteria. Any person or entity claiming to be injured or aggrieved by any final action of the Board of Zoning Appeals has the right to appeal the decision to the Court of Common Pleas as provided in the Ohio Revised Code Chapters 2505 and 2506. As this is a little bit more of a theoretical, intangible concept, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. I believe the applicant is present. That ends my staff report.
The overhead that we're seeing here, was that a Google Earth or is this an auditor's?
That's our zoning map.
Because I see that trailer's not in the driveway at this point.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't know when this was?
2022.
2022, thank you.
We get updated maps every other year.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Metz?
To clarify, Mr. Metz, when you say front yard, you mean it is going to be parked in the driveway, correct?
Correct.
What's the temporary, what's the allowance for temporary placement of a trailer such as this?
72 consecutive hours every 2 weeks.
72 every 2 weeks, thank you.
May I ask, too, what is a setback for a driveway for a property line? As far as if a driveway were to be extended or put on the side of a property, what is the required setback?
I'm sorry, could you say that in a different way?
So if you were to put an additional driveway in, would the edge of your driveway have to comply with the same setbacks as a home? Or what would the minimum setback from a property line be for a driveway?
So a driveway is considered an accessory structure, meaning that your side yard setback would have to be 3 feet. But there is no front yard setback for a driveway because it would have to have a curb cut.
So that raises an interesting question. So could an additional pad be poured there in that front yard and comply with the development code?
Well, to comply with the development code, this is where we start getting conceptually, right? They could have a parking pad in the rear or side yard, which would be, for this property, here's the side yard. So behind the front of the house and in front of the rear of the house would be considered the side yard. Now, as long as they had a parking pad that could be built, there is no setback from the house, but it would have to be set back 3 feet from this yellow line, which is the property line, in which case they could park the trailer there if the trailer was only 6 feet wide.
What about a pad in the front of the house?
No, because it would still not meet the 35-foot setback.
Unless
So-
the trailer was parked
On a side.
on its side.
Well, unless the trailer is 2.4 inches. Probably not.
No, what I meant by that is, if there was put your cursor back again on the north side, on the truck side of this pad right here. Yeah, the truck side. If there was another pad put there and the trailer was parked parallel with the front of the house, it wouldn't be within the...
It would still be within the 35-foot setback because from the public right-of-way to the house is only 37 feet.
Okay.
So they only have 2.4 feet.
Show a picture of the front of the house again.
Oh, I see. Now,
And
that would be a little difficult to put a pad in there. Now that I'm seeing there's an elevation to the front door. Okay. You got where I was going.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward.
Raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And if you'll identify yourself, please.
Evening, gentlemen. My name's Ryan Colwell. I'm the property owner at 2530 El Camino Drive. I noticed you guys were talking about the side yards on if there was any room. To the left, the 7.3 feet that Mr. Mentz pointed out, there's also an elevation there as well. Also, to the left of this, there's now a new home that was built, I don't know, over the last 10 months. So, not really proper. And then obviously over here, it wouldn't be feasible. I believe that, you know, exceptional narrowness and shallowness of the property from the right-of-way line, that this would fulfill. I also would like to add that the trailer's only there for 5 months out of the year. I drag race for a hobby. That's why it's there. So, I mean, it's there from May to September. After that, it goes in storage. But do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Have you, by chance, did you get to hear the voicemail that was left with Mr. Metz's office?
I did not. Mr. Mentz told me
It was from one of your neighbors. She didn't identify herself. One of her concerns, and that's why I was going to ask you, you obviously don't have a garage separate from this garage where you tune your dragsters and take care of those things, because she was obviously, and that's not before us, is your sound violations that might be there, and the police
it
can
was
take care of that.
I believe, what is it, 10 o'clock, sir? 9 o'clock?
She didn't say.
I work for Cleveland Cliffs, so
She
I work
just said that
work, so.
when you're tuning your race cars, that the sound is, she can definitely hear it.
Well,
So you don't have any outside, you don't have any auxiliary garages
not, sir.
where you store a vehicle or?
I do not.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the variance, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the variance, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
So anytime we get citizen comments, they're forwarded to you as soon as I receive them. And I don't share them with anybody outside of the Board of Zoning Appeals, just to keep the citizen comments anonymous.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Yep.
I'm glad that lady didn't identify herself. I might have told Mr. Cole of the name.
Okay, so interested to hear from everyone as we move into deliberations. Thoughts?
Mr. Colwell did state a review criteria point that he believed fit his property. So whether you choose to approve, deny, make a motion to continue, or approve with some type of modification, if you could please address that, I'd appreciate it.
If I may, I'm familiar with the home, and the grade and the narrowness does provide a little bit of challenges if you want to have any other accessory vehicles. And in my opinion, the fact that it's not a permanent storage, I believe the narrowness and shallowness of the lot is probably the best factor to consider in this. But that being said, he is parking an accessory vehicle in his driveway, and it is still within the setbacks, so outside of the setbacks.
And it is allowed for 72 hours, but it still would have to be set back further, even if it was.
No, so within the setback where it is currently, it could be parked there for up to 72 hours, I believe, every 2 weeks. So it's usually used for when people have like an RV, they bring it to their house, they park it there, they prepare for a weekend getaway or something else. Kind of covers that sort of use.
The violation is the time it sits there, not the position of it.
Correct. It's just about the timing.
Okay.
Well, I guess timing and position, but more so timing.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on this particular case?
This is another one of those, I don't know how to help you.
The only, is there any storage lots or anything around in the area that have you, well, I should have asked him, I guess, but that would be something.
Caldwell, could you come back up here? I actually had another question as well. Mr. Heidenreich can ask you first.
Have you explored parking at either at some other property or in one of these lots that they have storage?
Yes, sir. So it sits at or it's parked at one of my friends' houses in Germantown during the off turn. The reason why it also, I have it at my house is because I race every weekend. I also, like I said, I work shift work as well.
Yeah.
So to have to drive to Germantown, back to Middletown, if I get off at 3 o'clock, by the time that's all said and done, it's more of a convenience factor than anything. That's why it stays there during those.
Are
5
you
months.
gone the weekend that you're using it? Well, I mean, is the trailer off the property for the Saturday or Sunday or both days?
Sometimes, yes, sir.
So if you could bring it Thursday, it wouldn't sit there 72 hours to get it out of there? And then you'd just take it back to Germantown Monday or something?
I guess I have a hard time.
I'm just looking for some options, that, where you could use it there. Okay.
I understand the 72 hours. As I said, I mean, it's not as easy, I guess, with my work schedule to
Yeah,
be
I
able to
understand it.
accommodate that. But I do understand that.
Mr. Caldwell, that one
Yes, sir.
photograph, we looked at your house from overhead.
I'm sorry, which one?
It obviously was taken at a time when you had your trailer in Carlisle, or you were gone for a weekend, or...
Yeah, I mean, the
Of course, your truck's there, so that means
the leaves are off the
trailer's not with you.
right. The leaves are off the tree, so I'm assuming it was probably parked, in Germantown. So
Yeah.
it's probably during the winter and fall.
Yeah, okay.
So like basically at the end of this month, it'll be gone until May.
That's all I had.
What do you use the trailer for? Is it to haul your car, or has it got equipment in it?
Yes, sir. Just to haul the car.
To haul a car?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. My own opinion on this particular case, I think
Anybody want to speak against it?
we've already closed the public hearing. Yeah, yep. It's difficult to accommodate cases in a case like this. I understand that, racing and doing those sorts of things. However, I just don't believe it's feasible to park that car or park that in the front yard. I would be in favor of denying this motion myself, or denying the case myself.
I got one other question. If you knew the neighbor next door, if he pulled it on his driveway, would that work? Because it's back further. Okay, well,
I don't see how we honor the code and approve it.
well, it's kind of an exception to grant it, so I don't see how we couldn't, if we did that, everybody and their brother could park one there.
I always find it hard to believe, not hard to believe, but hard to consider, telling people what to do with non-permanent structures, but unfortunately, the code is the code, and
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, whether we like it or not, there is not really a sign of pure hardship that I can see, unfortunately, but.
Any other comments? We will need a motion, so. Mr. Cash, you want to make a motion?
Reluctantly, I'll move that the variance be denied based upon, I think, the same criteria that we've used in the past, the other two. That would be A3 and A10.
I will reluctantly second that.
All right, we have we have a motion and we have a second. So Stefan Wanamaker,
Yes to deny.
David Cash,
Yes.
Jerry Heidenreich,
Yes.
Christopher Ambergy,
Yes.
Todd Moore,
Yes.
and Jim Hall.
Yes.
Before our next case, would you like to take a few minute break or would you like to continue?
Let's take 5 minutes. We'll come back.
So we will resume at 6:56.
Good guy and you want to help him out and you can't do a damn thing about it.
Sometimes it stinks.
Well, my wife always says I'm a perfect asshole. I guess I'm good at it. God's a good guy, you know? God damn. He's so close to the 72-hour deal. If he'd leave Monday and come back. I missed that one, you're right. Well, I was gonna suggest that if he could go around and park it in the back.
3 foot setback by 6 inches to put that trailer between the houses.
Just drag that thing behind the house.
I mean, that may be. Plus, you know, I don't know if the departmental waivers, I don't think they occur, I don't think they apply to setbacks.
He addressed that a little bit. He says the topography's pretty bad.
It wouldn't be enough, but it still would.
He only needs a pathway to take it to the backyard.
To the backyard.
How about a ramp over the top of the house? Well, you know what he could do? Is drive through the garage.
You know what? There are people,
I know,
in fact, a friend of mine who lives over on Courier,
but his garage isn't high enough though, that's a
he
problem.
bought this house over on Courier.
I know.
And he added a garage, and he's got a drive-through garage.
Yeah,
I mean, that's in addition to his 2-car garage.
Huh?
I mean, now, the question, I don't have that photograph as to whether that trailer would fit through the door, but it looked like it probably would.
Well, they could have a walkout garage. But the trouble is, the garage door, it won't lift high enough to get that thing. I kind of looked at that. Yeah. So, I wanted to, this is driving me nuts. I feel, well, you know, I'm on some of those earlier ones.
I like that idea, Jerry. You need to get a hold of this guy.
I know. Yeah, that's a good thing.
The drive-through garage.
But the problem is, I looked at that.
Did you look at the photo? It's going to be too tall to get
Yes.
through there.
That's what the problem is. You'd have to raise the whole darn
Oh,
thing.
yeah, you have to, that.
My garage, when I built it an extra foot high and 2 feet wider because my wife can't drive.
Well, she didn't need the height, she just needed
Well,
the width.
she did because I got a van with a little bubble on it. We'd have knocked that thing off just as sure as heck.
This guy's phone down there?
You know, I really work hard trying to give these exceptions, but I can't come up with it. Hey, I'm sorry. Now, guys, you know, we have a lot to do today, and we were just stretching those first couple too far. They were too clean. I mean, you want to feel like you're giving them their say, but
Fortunately, the second one is.
I want to go by and see.
well, you know, I said it and I made it public. There's nothing in the variances that because of an animal you're going to give them a variance, and that was the reason. And that's if you do that, that's giving an unfair advantage to whatever it is, 10 or 11 or whatever the heck it is. So you can't do it. I mean, I didn't like it either. But I didn't like killing people, but I had to make a lot of weapons that did.
Carlisle is not that far from where you live. I mean, it's, it is 12 miles.
Why don't he knock on a neighbor's door there and find out? He's got neighbors that, because
Yeah, they had a huge pad.
yeah, I know. I mean, we even got one here where the neighbor's saying, hey, it doesn't block, it doesn't bother anybody. And and she said, it's justified. Well, why don't you talk to that?
Throw her a few bucks every month and rent it.
Well, I mean, is it that easy to answer stuff like that? Nah, but
Thank you, Chair.
oh,
always had a solution for Mr. Cole, a drive-through garage, but the problem is the trailer's too tall.
well, and I brought up building a ramp over the house as well.
I think the best one is you get your neighbor and,
Yeah, well, that,
I mean, if
I didn't want
they
to
have
tell
a
you.
minimal number of cars, park it in their driveway.
Well, I'm not here to solve their problems, but I do, my human nature wants to give them an option. I'm sorry when I drag things out, Mike, but that's what happens when you got a dumbass on that board. All right. This ought to be really fun. Did you get any of these things? These are common. Now we're gonna make it a clean sweep. Where is this? It looks like it would work.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to bring us back into, okay, this brings us to our final case this evening. This is case number 1623. A request by applicant Miracle Hurston for approval of an area for a use variance for the property located at 1030 Summit Drive.
So tonight before us, we have a use variance request for 1030 Summit Drive. The property is currently zoned O1 Office District. The variance requested is allow for the operation of a bar and tavern, a nightclub, a community center, and a restaurant, where the Middletown Development Code prohibits bars and taverns, nightclubs, community centers, and the O1 zoning district, and restaurants are conditional use. As you saw in your staff packet, there was a lengthy business kind of document that kind of details the business plan. Business plan covers quite a variety of different uses, and I broke down the uses to bars and taverns, nightclubs, community centers, and restaurants would all be considered part of the business plan. The request is by applicant Miracle Hurston. So the property is zoned O1 Office District. The purpose of the O1 Office District is to provide for areas of general office and non-retail commercial uses that support community needs within small-scale developments. This district may also serve as a land use transition between residential uses and higher intensity uses such as commercial uses and high volume streets. As you see here, this is 1030 Summit Drive within the O1 Office District. Throughout this area is a variety of different medical offices and other office buildings. To the left in the dark purple, it says O1P. This was originally an office. It was zoned for office district, but then it came through as a planned development for a residential neighborhood. So this is a residential neighborhood, you can see, and it was actually supposed to extend out through here and connect, never did. But this is a residential neighborhood for all intents and purposes. To the east, we have the high school. To the west, we have the university. Just kind of provide some ideas of where everything is. So when we look at a new zoning application, we look at the table 1204-3, principally permitted uses. So as we broke down the business plan into several different uses, we come to this table, we inspect it to see what uses would be permitted in the correct zoning district. The first two are bars and taverns and restaurants in the O1 district. Bars and taverns is not permitted. Restaurants are conditional use. Conditional uses can only be approved through a special application by Planning Commission. The next one is community centers and nightclubs. Through the O1 district, it is also prohibited for both uses. And this does not mean that it would be permitted with standards or that it's conditional. It means just outright not permitted. As you can see, in often situations, you have bars and taverns that are PS. That just means they're permitted with standards. I went ahead and included that for bars, taverns, and nightclubs, just so you have an idea of when a bar, tavern, or nightclub is permitted with standards. These are the standards. These do not apply because bars, taverns, and nightclubs are not permitted. But when they are permitted with standards, the principal building shall be set back a minimum of 35 feet from any adjacent residential lot. New uses shall be set back a minimum of 100 feet from any public or institutional use. Such setback requirement shall not apply to restaurants that have a bar or tavern that comprises less than 50% of the floor area. The maximum building footprint shall be 15,000 square feet in the BCH district. Once again, this doesn't necessarily apply because bars, taverns, and nightclubs are not permitted. This is just to kind of give you some bearing and understanding. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests, meeting notice letters, the proposed variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way, and all comments were forwarded to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Since this is a use variance, which is different than the area and dimensional variances that we saw before, I will read the review criteria. In order to grant a use variance, the BZA shall determine that strict compliance with the terms of this code will result in unnecessary hardship to the applicant. The applicant must demonstrate such hardship by clear and convincing evidence that all of the following criteria are satisfied. The property cannot be put to any economically viable use under any other permitted uses in the zoning district in which the property is located. The variance requested stems from a condition which is unique to the property at issue and not ordinarily found in the same zone or district. The variance requested cannot otherwise be resolved by a zoning map amendment, or a zoning map amendment is not the most beneficial approach. The essential character of the neighborhood will not be substantially altered as a result of the variance. There is an existing structure that cannot reasonably be used for a permitted use or a conditionally permitted use in the applicable zoning district. The proposed use is listed in Table 1204-3. The hardship condition is not created by actions of the applicant. The granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents. The granting of the variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or general welfare. The variance will be consistent with the general spirit and intent of this code. The requested use is permitted in another district in this code. The variance sought is the minimum that will afford relief to the applicant. Once again, I just would like to state that all of the review criteria must be met in order to approve a use variance. For appeals, any person or entity claiming to be injured or aggrieved by any final action of the Board of Zoning Appeals has the right to appeal the decision to the Court of Common Pleas as provided in the Ohio Revised Code, chapters 2505 and 2506. That ends my staff report, and the applicant is present. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed variance, please come forward. Yes, sir.
solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
And identify yourself.
Well, my name is Miracle Hurston. I'm the individual that is seeking to purchase the property. as just stated by Mr. Meats, he laid out the guidelines for the criteria that if you was to take this exact same building and to put it in the actual entertainment, in one of the other communities, it meets all the criteria. It's the only building in that area that actually meets the criteria to have such a, such an establishment. However, I don't know if you guys, the building doesn't look good at all. It's been sitting empty for some time, so it's been an eyesore. I know that as far as the actual, I want to say the plan that I have in implementing, when you hear a nightclub or a tavern or something, you might think that that comes with a negative stigma or something like that when you think of nightclubs. But my business plan, which I thought that would have been included in the slides that I attached to do you guys have that? Okay, yeah. It's more of an upscale venue. It's not like a bar and tavern. It's more like a restaurant, jazz band, that sort of type of ordeal. So, I'm a home-raised Middletown guy, and I know that's something that I don't remember us ever having here. Something that was upscale, that you could get dressed up and go to and be comfortable with taking your family and, everyone from the community can enjoy it. It's not just catered to one different ethnicity. It's going to be very multicultural. So to give you a little bit more of an idea about the project that I'm attempting to do. However, though, he went down a list of things and the criteria that needed to be met. I think it's been obvious because the building has sat empty for the last 3 years that it's not able to be used for economic use. It's proven itself by sitting empty. The world has changed since COVID. A lot of people, they don't want to go back to offices. Many people are practicing like law firms and stuff. Doctors are even visiting you through telephone. You're doing the telecommunication and you having Zoom meetings and stuff like that. So as far as the actual putting it to an economical viable use, I cannot see anyone actually coming in and using it for just strictly office space. I just don't see it. I've been inside of the building, and it's just not really. It just does not see that it's doable. Anyone who's investing, they're going to want to be able to make a profit. This is more of an investment property. It's not like you're living in the house, so you have to be able to put it to viable economic use. And you have to put something in it that's going to bring in revenue. I actually have the ability to bring people in from the surrounding areas too, not just Middletown. I have connections with people in Dayton, Cincinnati, Westchester, and people involved in organizations there that want to do upscale events and stuff like that. And it actually brings a different taste to Middletown. So, and as far as I assume that the majority of the people who are still here, they may have opposition to it. And I would like to hear the opposition, have an opportunity to rebuttal the opposition, because before I say everything, I want to hear what their opposition is beforehand, and then I may have an opportunity to address that. I think that would be, I would first like to hear their concerns, because I probably already have the answers to their concerns.
I do have a question. So this area, its current zoning prohibits what you're proposing. Now, I know it looks like you are entering into a potential contract. It's dependent on whether or not this would go through. But
Yes.
my question really is, among all the other locations in Middletown where you could practice a nightclub, Why this location? Why did you choose this location?
Thank you. I'm glad you asked me that. Well, if you notice, most of the locations in Middletown, like Central, they're usually in neighborhoods. And you got walk up traffic. You know, people from, whether it's homeless, whether it's already situations there, you're not going to get the type of clientele that I'm going after to visit those type of locations. This is a good location. This is a very good location. And I know, like, you would feel comfortable coming there to an event. Where you may not feel comfortable going to one of the other establishments because you have to compete with the surrounding problems. So in order to bring in a certain clientele, you have to have an area where they feel there's going to be safety. So, I mean, that's the main goal. I can't do what I want to do in the areas that are available.
At any time when you were entering into discussion with the realtor, did anyone raise concerns that what you're proposing is a prohibited use in this area?
Yes, we understood that it was yes, we definitely discussed that. However, I really felt that I have a very strong argument for the reason as to why the usage variance should actually be granted. Like, for instance, you can do a restaurant there. So you could do a restaurant with fans. It's primarily the same thing. Like if I was to do a restaurant and have live music during a restaurant and sell beverages, so why not just go all the way and do it right and set up the criteria the way you need to have it done. So that's my thinking in going into this. If we get the usage variance approved, there would be no reason not to be able to successfully do it in a way where it would improve the area. It wouldn't make the area worse. I think the building, the way it sits now, is actually dragging down the area.
Mr. Miracle, Mr. Thurston, I'm sorry, maybe a question I'm going to have to follow up with Mr. Metz, but I think the development code probably defines these various uses that you're proposing, that being bar, tavern, nightclub, community center, and restaurant. I think they probably have specific definitions. Have you looked at the development code to see if
Yes.
where these distinctions lie between bar, tavern, restaurant, nightclub, event center?
They usually fall under one, like they got B1, B2, B3, and they fall if you look at the entertainment. Let me see, it's recreation and entertainment, and you go all the way over to you find your first P is at B1, and it covers all of those things right there. So if it's a B1, you can do those things right there in the recreation and entertainment, and so on. So that's the actual.
Have you explored applying to the city for a special permit to open a restaurant there, just simply a restaurant?
No, I have not done that.
Can I ask you a question? What would be your hours of operation?
The hours of operation would be from 9 to 2 a.m. However, like any other, because your liquor license, usually you want to get the maximum use out of your liquor license. So liquor licenses are no longer than 2 a.m. However, during the actual, it actually varies because it's a multi-use property. So I have multiple ideals of things that I could do there, but if we're just focusing on the the night aspect of it, it would be 2 a.m.
Okay. When I was looking at the view, there's some homes immediately behind that building. I think they may be impacted by some of the noise.
No, because the building sets back 100 feet. That's back parking, and I could actually block that off, and they wouldn't have to even use that parking. It's a big, like if you look at the, if you could bring up the outline of it, if you could see it's huge. It has a huge parking lot. You can actually, it has a back entrance and a front entrance, and you could actually only limit it to, you could limit it to just using the front entrance. Right, okay, right.
That's still close as far as I can tell.
Do you know how many square feet the building is?
No, I'm not for sure. Not off the top of my head.
Any other questions?
Have you ever run a business like this before?
Yes, I have. Not as an actual owner, but as just a promoter. And, you know, I've always had success. I've always had success in some of the, even the areas where I've been able to go into venues where there were problems and promote and have the same people and add people to it, and those problems go away because I run it correctly. I don't show favoritism. I have proper security. When I run it different. So I run my establishment with integrity, where I'm not hanging with the people. I'm in a position of leadership. So therefore, I know I have to act different in those situations in order to get the respect from the people that I am, dealing with. So that's one of the things that I have always been good at, not having issues at my events.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
This is maybe an off-the-wall question. If he does like he says and blocks off the back half of the building, not letting anybody park there, would there be enough parking places in the other parking lot to, you know what I mean, the zoning on the parking places per square feet of the building, or that's
So
unknown?
parking spaces are determined based off of the variety of different uses. When submitting this application, I broke it down to 4 different uses, that it could be 1, 2, 3 of them, it could be all of them, it could be a variety. Each individual use as itself, so let's just say, for example, a restaurant. If you wanted to put a restaurant in there, it would meet this. It would be sufficient for the number of parking spaces based off of the use and the square footage of the building, number of parking spaces. Same thing for the nightclub, same thing for a bar and tavern, and then same thing for the community center. Though the community center is probably not ideally what he's going for, it's probably the first 3. I include that one just to be sure. It's better to add too many than not enough,
Yeah.
in my case.
I just see that the very last house on Gage is right up against the parking lot there in the back.
No other questions? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the proposed variance? Please come forward. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the proposed variance, please come forward. Mr. Cash will swear you in.
I do. My name is Wayne Hall. I live at 1011 Gage Drive, City of Middletown, Butler County, Ohio. Sounds like I just presented myself to the court, doesn't it? I'm used to doing it that way. You know, this is the first time I've been to a zoning meeting, and I've been in the city a long time. You guys got a tough job to do, and he looks like Tony Stewart. Anyway, 1011 Gage Drive, our backyard backs up to 1030 Summit Drive, with the exception it is separated by some landlocked ground of about maybe 100 foot. I'll tell you right now, I brought some people with me, right here. None of them want to see a bar and a tavern, a nightclub, or whatever you call it in our neighborhood for several reasons. Number one, I'm soon to be 80 years old, and I spent 40 years of that in law enforcement. 40 of those years, I've seen a lot of things. Even the best run liquor permit premises have problems. I mean, we don't want to end up dodging bullets on a New Year's Eve party like happened at the 513 bar or the old Edwards building on First Avenue, which is across from our church. We don't want that. And on top of that, I've talked to a couple of real estate people, and we feel that it's going to affect our property values. And hell, we have a hard enough time keeping our property values up in the city of Middletown as it is. You know, if you look, even if you approve it, look at the outlay on Summit Drive. Summit Drive, coming off of University Boulevard, is one way. It comes off of Brill, you can come in that way. Okay, so if you have some drunk coming out of a nightclub or a bar and goes the wrong way on Summit Drive and goes out the wrong way on the University and has a head-on collision, now we got a terrible problem. That's an issue. You have a lot of business places up here. Summit Drive cannot handle a whole lot more traffic than what it handles now. Look at the businesses we have. It's just not a good plan, guys. It is not a good plan. There are plenty of other places in this city that have vacant structures that would be more astute to a bar or a nightclub or whatever, but not so close to Gage Drive. I have one young lady here. Her mom just recently died. It's the very last house on Gage on the left. Backyard backs right up to that place. And so the house has been left to her. Now, she's going to take a beating when she tries to sell it if you find out there's going to be a damn bar and nightclub coming up in your backyard. I'm speaking for Ernie and Gilda Mushmore, who could not be here tonight. They're like me. They're in their 80s. They have the house, and their front yard faces that parking lot. And if you look at that plot plan, it looks like it's a lot farther away than what it is. It's not. It's a whole lot closer when you get and look at it personally. And they will have to put up with that. We're old. We go to bed at 10 o'clock. We don't stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning. And we like to get our sleep. And we just think it's a very, very bad plan for all of us folks. We've got a lot of money invested here. A whole hell of a lot more money he's going to be investing in that bar for all of us property owners. So that's all I've got to say. I just hope you guys use a good decision and deny this variance. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the proposed variance, please come forward.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. I am Mark Frazier. I am the managing partner of SFPL Partnership, which is the vacant lot right next to 1030. And my medical practice of 35 years has sat at 1010 Summit Drive. I'm in a very unique position, as I shared with you in my letter. I was part of the development group that built Summit Square. That was in 1988, and many of the things that Mr. Metz has mentioned about the road being where it is, and the businesses that are currently occupying Summit Square are a result of working very closely with the city and working very closely with the residents of Gage, because they too had concerns back in 1988 about a road coming through and then everyone taking shortcuts. So this was a well thought out development. It was originally owned by First United Methodist Church. They made a decision to stay in downtown, and we then put together 4 physicians and a developer to develop Summit Square. Dr. Berard, ENT, Premier ENT on the corner of Manchester and Briel, and our office at 1010 Summit were the first 2 buildings to occupy, and that was occupied in 1990. It was always O1, or back then it was called P1, professional. It was designed, it was developed to have exactly what's there now. Professional offices, not doing retail, but taking care of patients, taking care of clients, and it is very much occupied by residents, or excuse me, property owners who are operating under O1 to the fullest extent. It is full except for 10:30 at this time. Mr. Hurston is correct that it's been vacant a while. They've had several different building uses in there, but Mr. Hurston's idea may be great for Middletown, but it's just the absolute wrong place to put it. It is inconsistent with the development from the beginning. We have heard about the traffic flow, which was very intentional because of its location. You can only come in off of University, and you can come in and out at Briel. If you'll look at Briel, because we moved Summit to the north, so that Gage would be protected and stay away from through traffic, that made that exit and entrance very purposeful, and that's why there's a cutout there. That was something that we worked with the city to make sure things were safe. Every other office in that complex closes before 6 or 7 o'clock at night. It is totally inconsistent to have a single operation open till 2 a.m. It's totally inconsistent to allow a liquor permit across from your high school, across very near to your residential, and embedded within a professional office complex. So the variance that's been requested has already been shown to be prohibited on multiple levels, and we ask that the zoning board take that into consideration and continue to protect a highly successful professional office complex.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward.
I do. My name is Janine Weber. I own 4310 Manchester Road. It's grandfathered, I guess you would call it. It's an older home. Like this gentleman said, it is a lot closer to those backyards than it looks in this picture. I work at GE Aviation. I get up every morning, 6-7 days a week at 4 a.m. Listening, as much as I support small business and love going out and having a good time, I don't want it in my backyard. It's just not feasible, and as he was talking, he called it walk-up traffic. We don't have that problem there because there's nothing to walk up to. As he stated, everything closes 6, 7 o'clock. We don't have that issue. And I feel really sorry for, I have 2 acres, so my house sits up a little further. I will still hear all the music, all the noise, and I'm really worried about people venturing, trespassing, and I'm finding them in my backyard. I mean, I have dogs, I go out there, play with them. And I don't want to get scared by somebody passed out in my backyard. But it's just not feasible. I can't see getting up at 4 a.m. when I have to listen to music till 2. And that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward.
I do. My name is Eric Combs, and I've got some roots to the whole area, really. I didn't prepare to speak, so sorry, just got to do something, so it won't be long. I know it's been a long time tonight.
Could you please speak into the microphone?
Yes, sir. Sorry. So I grew up on Gage Drive, so I've got some roots there growing up, and I can tell you as a not current resident, but as a prior resident, having any sort of nightclub, bar establishment at the top of that hill is not a good idea. All of the houses along the east side of Gage Drive will be very much affected, the whole neighborhood in general, but all those houses do butt up very close to that area. I grew up playing in that area, in my backyard, riding my bike up through Summit Square. I know it all too well. I also have a practice on 1015 Summit Drive, which is kind of, yep, right there. That's the one. And so as a business owner and I'm an optometrist, so I'm in the medical profession. I just don't see it being good for that in that area at all. So sorry, public speaking's not my thing. but anyhow, yeah, it's just in the traffic, it doesn't make sense. When you come up from University, it is a one way to come in. So the only way you can get in going from heading north on Breel, you have to turn left University, go down the hill, and you have to make a U-turn. It's dangerous enough to do that when I'm driving in the morning, when I heading into work, and I see near accidents there. Doing that U-turn, middle of the night with excess traffic, that's unnecessary. That's a risk right there. I do see an issue with possible people trying to go out the one way, the wrong way as well. And then you got, aside from the residents, aside from the professional offices that are all have medical clients and patients, and then we've got Middletown High School too. So, and it's right there. So there's a lot of things in that area that just don't jive well for it to be too closely connected or too closely nearby a nightclub or bar, restaurant of that sort. So, any questions for me?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the proposed variance, please come forward. Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
I do. Jennifer McNeil. The house at the very end on the left of Gage Drive is the house I grew up in. It's the house, unfortunately, in my name now. It's the house where my parents raised my son while I worked. It is extremely close to the building that we're talking about, especially if that bottom lot is used. I can't imagine a family there next to a nightclub, bar. The way the offices are up in Summit Square right now, it's quiet during the week when they are in business. Evenings and weekends are even more quiet. To have a business that close to someone's yard and someone's house, and their primary hours of operation don't even start till 9 p.m. and they go till 2 a.m. I don't see how that could be possible when you have houses right there where you are, especially if it's not zoned for something like that, and people move into this neighborhood knowing that they have the peace of mind that something like a nightclub or bar isn't going to be there. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Please come forward. Okay, we will close the public hearing. Was there one? Mr. Hurston requested, did you have a few comments at the end? Yes, sir, you may do that.
I just want to say I heard everybody's concerns. You know, as far as the, I just want to point out a few things though that were completely inaccurate. I understand some of the arguments. If you don't want a nightclub or bar in your neighborhood, you don't want it around there because you just have a negative stigma about it. You just have a negative stigma about it, you know, and that's understandable. But, you know, I don't see how that would bring someone to tears and things of that nature. You know, I wouldn't expect for asking to open up an establishment to affect anyone emotionally like that, so I apologize for that. However, when I hear the comparisons, the comparison to places such as the 513 or the Edwards Brothers Hall, I sort of immediately, because there's other nightclubs, and just because I'm an African American man, that doesn't mean that's going to be the type of club I'm going to have, but to just automatically have a stigma on that, I just want to speak against it because it's kind of bullets flying and stuff like that. Like, there's other clubs that you could have also used as a comparison, so sort of resent that. But that's not the type of establishment that I was planning to open by any means. The distance from the building is not close to anything. The parking lot is close to anything. I wouldn't be operating during the same hours as the so-called businesses during the day. How am I interrupting business with a club that's not operating during a time of physician care? So, like, arguments like that, they're not valid arguments. Now, I understand if the nightclub in general, you just don't think it's a good look for the neighborhood, whatever. I can respect it and come to means with you and be like, you know, okay, if you think that's, you know, your reasoning for not having it, that's fine. But Middletown has been failing for some time. We've turned away the casino. You know, we've turned away many of opportunities, things that people made deals out of without giving them a chance to grow. I understand certain things have been a certain way for a certain amount of time. However, we have to change. We do have to grow. I live in that area. I own several properties in Middletown. I'm over there all the time. I just walk through. I stay on Rosedale, okay? So I live right across the street from the school. So I come and I walk around the neighborhood and I'm out there. And it's an isolated place. They wouldn't even know I was in business. If you go to bed at 10 o'clock, well, you would still go to bed at the same time. That doesn't mean you have to stay up to 2 a.m. and wait for me to close. Like, I understand their opposition. They have opposition to it, and they have a right to the opposition. However, you're going to have a building there that could be put to great use, and it's ideal. It's different by all means. Yes, it is different than what's already there. However, I can't see it being a nuisance. Like, I'm hearing more of a nuisance description of what So what if you have what if homeless people start going in there and staying and things like that because it just sits there empty? Is that a nuisance? You know, because that's what's happened to the inner city neighborhoods. You have homeless people with the drug addiction, they go and stay in these neighborhoods. Now, if that happened there, then how would you look at the situation? Like, so I know what I'm trying to do. I know it would be great for the city of Middletown, and this may not be the location for it. You know, I know it is coming with drawback, but I know if it got there, there would be more people that would be happy that it's there than the handful of people that came here. I know it would provide more of a service to the overall public. I could have counteracted them with, I could have had 30 people sitting in here speaking with me. I wasn't for sure if anyone was going to come and oppose or whatever, or what was going to happen. But I wanted to speak for myself because I'm going to be the one running the business, you know. And I respect the genuine concerns, but it definitely by no means would it be a nuisance. And I mean, if it doesn't work out, it's unfortunate that it just won't be here at this location. I feel like it would raise your property value because you have a successful establishment. The landscaping and stuff like that it looks good. I never heard of any vacant buildings increasing property value. In fact, they tear them down, and that's how you increase your property value because you don't have vacancies. So, I mean, but you know, is your guys' job to look at the criteria, you know, and I know that this was I knew it was going to be a challenge, you know, and I'm just saying I wish that you could see the beauty in what it is that I'm trying to do versus, because I just know it would be awesome. If it was there, it would be something that this city has never seen and never had, but, you know, and I wish y'all could all come back up here and change y'all's mind after hearing me speak and saying we now heard him and we want him to have it there, but that's probably not going to happen. But you know, it was worth a shot. And like I said, I respect everybody's opinion, even though it doesn't agree with mine. So, and that's all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. I'll close the public hearing now, and we'll move to deliberation. Wanted to ask again that we bring the use, yes. Mm-hmm. As was indicated earlier by Mr. Metz, a use variance does meet a higher standard than the practical difficulty that we looked at in those prior cases. Emphasis on all. So you'll notice that there are a number of criteria here, as are unlike the prior cases where we only had to satisfy maybe one. So first, I just want to say to Mr. Hurston that I can appreciate the enthusiasm going to try to have a business. It's this particular location for me that is very difficult. You know, we're fortunate to have the medical providers that we do have here in Middletown. And in the Summit, the offices that are currently there, we're lucky to have those doctors and those services to serve our community. And what you're proposing, I do believe that there are other areas. I understand that you want a particular location for economic reasons. You're hoping that that would be viable for you. The challenge, though, I think, is that I cannot think of anything else but medical being in this particular location. It is fundamentally designed and fundamentally for medical-related services. In fact, I think it's ideal for that location for medical. So that is really where I struggle with the request, is just that particular location. It's incompatible in my view.
I agree with that. And regardless of nuisance, regardless of anything like that, I think it would be a great business, a great addition to Middletown. I think it's probably something that is needed. I just don't think this location is equipped to handle that. And I'm sure, as you've seen, this board operates pretty closely to the code. Whether we like it or not, we had to follow that. And just by a quick glance at the criteria, I can see that not all of them can be met, and not several of them cannot be met. And even if we were in favor of having an establishment there, I just don't think that it would be possible.
Any other comments?
I'll just repeat what I said at a meeting last year. That living here 68 of my 72 years on the planet, I've observed Middletown coming together, drawing stakeholders together. You might have 30, you might have 50, you might have 100. And they come up with a plan. And then you watch as that plan is chipped away, time again, piece by piece. And that's why I'm pretty much, there are exceptions to every rule, but I'm pretty strong on the fact that there's a code for a reason. We can talk about all the things that Middletown doesn't have. I'm going to suggest to you that Middletown doesn't have enough investment. And one of the reasons I feel is a lack of police and a lack of adherence to our codes. And that if we ever achieve these things, you'll see investors come here, and you may be well among them, sir. But I think this breaks the first rule of real estate. Location, 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 location. The code clearly states this is not the location for what you wish to do.
Okay, any other comments? Any other comments? No? Well, we do need a motion.
I move to deny.
I'll second that.
Do we have a review criteria? Since this is a use variance, I only actually need one use criteria.
A, D, H, and K.
Sorry, say that again?
Please. A, D, H, and K.
A, D, H. Okay.
A, D, and H.
All right. We have a first and second, so I'll read the roll. Jim Hall,
Yes, to deny.
Todd Moore,
Yes.
Christopher Ambergy, Jerry Heidenreich.
Before I vote, I'd like to thank everybody that showed up tonight. It's important to have input, and you guys did a decent job. I was impressed with the presentation that was given for the situation. I think he'll be successful wherever that business ends up, but I have to deny the motion, deny the variance.
David Cash. Yes. Stefan Wanamaker.
Yes.
Okay. Brings us to new and old business.
Your old or new business? No, not tonight.
All right. And that brings us to...
Got a question. Has there been any update from Toby Baker on Oxford State Road?
The property has not been remediated. He received his first zoning violation letter, in which case we went back out there on Monday, took another photo, and took some more photos. Property is still not up to date, so he will be getting a civil penalty.
I have a question that under old business maybe. I want to make sure that I understand the situation for passing a variance or turning it down from a count standpoint. In the past, my memory says we always had to have 4 votes to finish the thing even if there's only 5 of us here, we still needed 4 votes to pass it or deny it. Is that true, or has it been modified, or am I just incorrect? David, what do you recall? You don't know? I think can you make sure whatever,
4, and you need 3 of the 4.
say again?
So a quorum is 4 members,
Yeah.
4 members of the board of 7. And as long as you have 3 that vote in one way, then that would constitute a majority and would approve it. If it's 2 and 2, it's denied. Now that 3 number still remains if there's 5. If there's 5 members, you'd have to have 3 approve and 2 could deny. So it's a minimum of 3.
Well, that's fine, if that's the way it's supposed to be. I think in the past, we had to have 4 votes if there was only 5 of us here. But that's fine, now I understand it. Thank you.
The only reason I know this is because we, at the case with Mr. Baker, we had our law representative there, and she went over it then with me.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Okay, any other old or new business? Okay, that brings us to adjournment. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We're adjourned.
You got time? Okay.
I'll tell you.